Hello everyone, welcome back to Total Football Talk. So we're going to look at all the latest news and transfer news coming out of Manchester United, and we just are the club that just keeps flowing with the news week in, day in, day out. So top stories, we're going to look at what's being said about Benjamin Sesko and the link that we are having with him and why we're having that link. We've also been linked to other players like Nicholas Jackson, who I'm not very impressed with as a player or with the link. I'm also going to look at stories about our midfield and who we could be potentially looking at from Sporting and whether that's possible. A little bit on the goalkeeper, Sané Lemens from the Belgian goalkeeper. And we're also going to look at a little bit about the youth and Elyh Harrison as well, and moves that Man City are actually making at the minute, which means we probably won't be getting Diego Costa. So the top stories are we are looking at Benjamin Cesco. Apparently, Christopher Favell knows Benjamin Sesko very well, and this is the reason why we have interest and we have begun discussions. So, I mean, Benjamin Sesko, would you have him over some of the other options that we have? Ollie Watkins, Colin Mawani has also been linked with Manchester United. Would you look at that? Who would you prefer him to those two? Or Nicholas Jackson's the other one that's being constantly referred to by both Ben Jacobs and Fabrizio Romano, which, my God, Ben Jackson, Action Jackson would be better than Jackson from Chelsea, because I think that he is a striker who has scored some goals in the Premier League, but I think he's good enough. He misses too many big chances, and we are not a team that can afford to miss too many big chances. He's just a very poor quality striker, and I think if we give him money, I wouldn't be surprised if we bought him from Chelsea and Chelsea went out and bought Cesco, who would be a massive upgrade, I believe. Now, I could be wrong, and Cesco might not be the player that we all think he is, and whether he's ideally the type of player that Ruben Amorim's looking for, I don't know. I don't know if this is a club signing. I don't know if this is a Ruben Amorim signing, or whether this is both parties looking at and thinking, yeah, this guy could be the one for us. I personally would rather have Ollie Watkins, who's prem proven, over taking someone like Nicholas Jackson, who I think, even though he has played in the Premier League, I don't think he's just missed too many big chances for me, and he's just not a very reliable striker, and that's what we need right now. So I'd rather stay with Rasmus Hland and maybe revisit this in the January transfer window rather than trying to get this deal done now. As I said, if we give money to Chelsea and they go off and buy Cesco, I mean, that would be highly frustrating. I mean, they may not do, they may have other targets on their mind, and yeah, I'm sure that will come to the fore very soon. But that's where we are with the links at the minute. Now there is more information that's coming out on this, and this is that Leipzig were reportedly demanding 78 million earlier this. I believe that's when Arsenal were interested in, but that fee has now come down to 70 million plus 8 million on add-ons, 11.5 per installment agreed over 4 years. So is that a good deal? Do you think you'd be happy with that? Would you like to see Manchester United do that deal? I personally, I would rather have Cesco, because he's a younger striker. He has done well in the Bundesliga. Yes, he is kind of physical, and I think he actually could do quite well in Ruben Amorim's team. He's a very good finisher, and he's got much to learn. But he isn't completely new to the whole kind of striking situation. He has been playing in the German league for a while, and he did stay behind another year in the German league to help himself improve, because he didn't feel he was quite ready for that move, where maybe Rasmus Hojlund in our case was unfortunately moved a bit too early from the Italian league. So in that respect, Cesco is a pretty good option. Can we afford him? I don't know. Would we be able to? I'd rather us spend an extra few million on Cesco than get Nicholas Jackson. But that's where we are with that. And this is what Statman Dave had to say about, just in terms of his goal record. And Benjamin Zesco scored 27 league goals since the start of last season. No striker under the age of 23 or younger has more across Europe's top 5 leagues in that time frame. So obviously his strike rate's pretty decent for a young player, and he's only going to get better. He's improving all the time, and Manchester United have been linked with him in the past, so we do know that we have scouted him. So I would be quite pleased with Cesco if we can afford the deal, but I don't know how we'd make the deal happen. I think we're going to have to sell players, as we've talked heavily about before: Sancho, Garnacho. Obviously Rashford has gone to Barcelona. That deal is going to be finalised today, but he's going there, and they're paying up to and around 90% of his wages and his bonuses. I think Manchester United are going to have to pick up a certain very, very small part of his wages. So we have saved some money there. Obviously, we've not getting a transfer fee. I believe the transfer fee with the option to buy for Barcelona is 24 million, which is awful. But in the current climate and the state we're in, maybe we just have to run with that. But yeah, it's not ideal. It's not what we want. We do need players that, or we do need to move them on. And it's probably the best deal that we could have done under the particular circumstances that we're actually in right now. But yeah, so moving along. So that's where we are with Cesco. Get your thoughts in below. Would you like to see Sesco in? Would you prefer Gyökeres? Now, there was the story, obviously, that Gyökeres was from Abolo and a few other Portuguese outlets yesterday that Manchester United were in for him. They made a deal, blah, blah, blah. I actually think it was a case of Sporting wanted to move this deal along. Arsenal were stalling for whatever reason, trying to bring the price down. Sporting want this deal done, a bit like the Manchester United deal with Mbeumo and Wissa and Newcastle and Spurs coming in for Wissa. United need to get the deal finished. They got the deal done, got it across the line, and Mbeumo's hopefully going to officially sign today. He has all the paperwork's done. It's just about case getting all the stuff into the press. I think with this particular deal, I think we Manchester United need to sort of look at where we are with everything. Apologies, lost my train of thought there. I'm thinking about the Cesco deal, but yeah, we just need to move along. As I said, Gyökeres team Manchester United is probably never going to happen. Wasn't going to happen yesterday, even though there was a lot of talk from the Portuguese outlets. That's where my chain of thought was supposed to go. But okay, that's where we are with all that. Now, apparently, there's been news on Antony, and Real Betis continue to try and raise funds, but several sources in Spain say that Atletico Madrid are emerging as a favourite to sign Antony. Now, I talked about this a long time ago, a few months back, that we knew that Atletico Madrid were interested. Antony had a fantastic league season. He scored 8 goals and had 5 or 6 assists. He really ripped it up in the old La Liga, and I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Atletico at least were taking a sniff around him just to see whether there was any potential in this move. As I said, Manchester United won 50 million euro. Do I think they're going to get 15 million euro? I don't think so. If we got 40 million euro, cleared some of the debt, I'd be quite happy with that of his contract, and maybe have a little bit left over. That I would like to see happen. Can I see that happening? I don't know. Guys, thank you very much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the content, please hit the old like button. Please hit the subscribe button. If you hit the subscribe button, you can get your comments in below. Talk to me about whatever you want on any of the topics we've talked about before. Sesco, Gyökeres, Antony. But please, if you could do that, would be absolutely brilliant. That would help me massively. Okay, let's crack on with the next little bit. So, with the Antony news, it'll just be interesting to see whether anything comes from that. I hope it does. As I said, the more we can get from him, the more we can clear the books, the more little bit of money might be left over to help us buy a midfielder, and that is something that I think we really need. Now, this is something that is coming out, and it's Manchester United are reportedly targeting Sporting midfielder Morten Hjulmand as a potential transfer option. Now, Hland's a very good player. I've seen him play quite a bit for Denmark and for Sporting. He's very mobile. He gets up and down, knows what the goal is. He would be perfect for Ruben Amorim's system. He's obviously played for Ruben Amorim before. And it is strange that Manchester United haven't bought a single player from Sporting. Now, we know that Sporting have let Quenda go. We know that Gyökeres is going to go to Arsenal, Quenda to Chelsea. And other players that they have are being looked at heavily and being scouted throughout this particular summer. But I think this would be a good deal. I think he's going to cost 70 million. I actually don't think we can do that. I think his release clause is around 100 million. I just can't foresee this actually happening at the minute because Manchester United don't have the funds. Now, if they were to sell Antony, Sancho was the go. We know that Rashford's gone. That frees up a little bit of money in terms of PSR, but it doesn't actually bring us anything in because there's no transfer fee at the minute. That means that we do need a midfielder, and even though Ruben Amorim kind of talked about the link up between Cunha and Bruno in the Leeds game on the weekend, and a little bit of pace missing in the midfield, Hland brings that. He brings a lot of that energy, pace, and the ability to drive forward with the ball. But are we going to do it? As I said, 70 million. I don't know where we get the money for that because our priority does seem to be a striker. It really, really does, and I think the striker is massive to Manchester United right now, and we maybe do need to kind of focus on that particular deal. Now, a little bit on Lemens. Manchester United have made initial contact and I've asked to be informed about the conditions for the 23-year-old goalkeeper Sammy Lemens from the Belgian club, and this has come from Fabrizio Romano. So obviously a really top tier one source. Manchester United are obviously looking at potential backups to Andre Onana. I think they really do need to do that. This guy could come in and maybe force Onana out. This would be perfect for us. This is probably the best way that we're going to get to be able to operate in the market in terms of bringing a new goalkeeper in. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on that one and see whether anything comes from that. And then just final little bit of news. The goalkeeper Elyh Harrison is going to be joining Shrewsbury on a sort of loan deal, and this is coming from Alex Cook. Now, Elyh Harrison's been very impressive in the Manchester youth team. He's done very well, but it's very difficult for a goalkeeper to come through the ranks and actually break into the Manchester United first team. Dean Henderson was the last one to do it, and obviously had quite a checkered kind of past in terms of his personality. This young kid seems really level-headed. I hope he goes to Shrewsbury. I hope he does very well for himself and he comes back, and then who knows. But we really do need to bring in a goalkeeper to challenge Andre Onana, and as I said, maybe Sammy Lemens is that goalkeeper. We know that Manchester City are about to place a €60 million bid for Diego Costa, so I think that may go out the window. They're going to get him. I don't think we can afford him. Diego Costa is a very good goalkeeper, but is he the class that Manchester City need? I'm not entirely sure. Be interesting to see how he copes in the hustle and the bustle of the Premier League. I'm not saying I wouldn't take him. I'm just going to be interested to see how he gets on with Manchester City. But guys, that's your kind of 10-11 minute roundup. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Said if you're enjoying the content, please hit the old like. Please give me 10 likes on this. That would be absolutely amazing. And hit the old subscribe button. And get your comments in below anything we've talked about. And we shall see you tomorrow.